Center for Population and Development was created in 1973 to complement the government's National Population Program. In its first 26 years, PCF implemented projects that delivered information, training, and family planning services. In 1992, the foundation broadened its mandate from population to Population and Development, or PopDev, and it changed its name to the Philippine Center for Population and Development. As a PopDev organization, PCPD implemented projects on community-based health education and services, responsible parenthood, and adolescent development. In 2000, PCPD was reorganized as a grant-giving foundation. It supported the efforts of partners that responded to various concerns, such as housing, waste management, food security, climate change, and reproductive health. In 2020, PCPD decided to shift from giving grants to becoming a social enterprise. It is studying the feasibility of setting up a hospital that would specialize on women's and children's health care, while at the same time provide a broad range of health services to the general public. As it continues to evolve, one thing has remained constant for PCPD. Through its various transformations, PCPD's commitment is to contribute to improve the quality of life of Filipinos.
It's 2 more minutes. Let's wait for 2 more minutes. There might be latecomers.
Yes, Doctora.
Yes. But I'm very glad to see that a lot of our attendees are from outside of Metro Manila. We have a lot of attendees, coming from the south, from as far I see here from Cotabato to Benguet. And then, of course, we have Caloocan. We have Nueva Vizcaya even. Nueva Vizcaya. I'm from Nueva Vizcaya, Mr. Ambatali, And thank you and from Davao and from Antique, from Lucena, all over the Philippines. Thanks a lot, ZFF, for mobilizing all of you, all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can request our participants, Doctora, to shout their locations sa ating chat group.
Yes. Now it's 9:30. We're officially opening the webinar. And welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for making the time to attend this webinar. Actually, this is PCPD, the Philippine Center for Population and Development. We started this series of webinars on different topics last May, this year. But this particular webinar, this nutrition webinar now, is an offshoot actually of the first webinar on nutrition we had, which was held on August 20. The title of that webinar was, Nasaan ang solusyon? Reducing malnutrition in the Philippines. Malnutrition, as you very well know, problema pa rin yan sa ating bayan. Serious burden pa rin yan sa mga Pilipino, especially among the children and the country's poor population. Ngayon, this problem was again, really came to the fore again with the recent World Bank report that said that the current state of undernutrition in the Philippines was or is a silent, quote-unquote, a silent pandemic. Pero sa amin naman, the problem is not without solutions. So now, we had that webinar in August on August 20, and because there was a strong demand for us to have another webinar on nutrition, we're holding another one together with our very significant partner, the Swilig Family Foundation, on nutrition. And this is the webinar that you're attending today. And so we have 5 speakers, and the flow will be, I'll be introducing the speakers now. But before I do that, I would like you to, I just want to request the attendees to please, when you want to ask questions, use the Q&A and the chat box. No more na the raising of the hands. Don't do that anymore. So for our first speaker, we have really very good speakers now, and I'm so glad that we have LGUs attending and participating in this particular webinar. The speakers will be, the first one will be Dr. Martin Pareño, who is my friend and who has a 14-year experience in the areas of public health, food security and nutrition, and social safety net. Currently, he is the Program Policy Officer of the World Food Program here in the Philippines. He is also part of various working groups that are developing national policies and guidelines related to food security and nutrition. And then the next speaker after Dr. Pareño will be Dr. Corazon Barba. Dr. Barba's life work is actually nutrition. She is Professor Emeritus of the Institute of Human Nutrition and Food of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. And she's also a nutrition consultant of the World Food Program Philippines. And she's a technical advisor of the Swilig Family Foundation's Nutrition Project. She was also the former director of the Food and Nutrition Research Institute. By the way, our two partners in this webinar are the Swilig Family Foundation and the World Food Program Philippines. Okay, Tony Boy, your turn.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Marilen. Well, firstly, I think we need to introduce ourselves, Dr. Marilen.
So, yes, that's what I forgot. I'm so presumptuous naman. I think naman that everybody knows me. My name is my name is Dr. Marilen J. Dangilan. I'm a medical doctor, but my training is on public policy. And so, and I've worked all my life in the UN, United Nations. My last job was with the UN World Food Program here in the Philippines. But before then, I was the global advisor in UNICEF in New York. Okay. And I'm the executive director. Oh, by the way, Tony, I'm also the executive director of the Philippine Center for Population and Development.
Correct, Dr. Yeah. So, thank you, Dr. Marilen. So magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Isang maganda at malusog na araw po sa kanilang lahat. I'm Dr. Tony Boy Faraon, Deputy Executive Director of the Swilig Family Foundation. So welcome po ulit sa ating webinar this morning. And aside from the two speakers that Dr. Marilen earlier introduced, this morning, we're also joined by a governor and two local chief executives or two municipal city mayor and the municipal mayor. They will share their leadership journeys and their employed strategies in implementing nutrition programs and policies responsive to the needs of expectant mothers, newborns, infants, and young children. So our first local chief executive to follow the two distinguished speakers is Honorable Roberto Y. Uy, the governor of Zamboanga del Norte. Governor Uy served as mayor of Dipolog City in 1998 to 2007 and as governor of Zamboanga del Norte since 2013. He never dreamed of to be a political leader, and his leadership journey is molded out of his simple beginnings, business and governance experience, and honed in the Word of God. He started collaborating with the foundation, with ZSF, in 2017 under the Health Leadership and Governance Program, or HLGP, supported by USAID, where he worked with his team to strengthen the provincial health system to ensure that services and programs are for the benefit of the people he serves. The engagement continued in 2019 through the UNICEF and the COICA-supported provincial nutrition governance program, wherein he and his team developed the provincial strategy and plans aligned to his vision of a healthier, progressive, and food secure Zamboanga del Norte. He will be followed by our distinguished mayor from Tacurong, Mayor Lino Ortizo Montilla. So let me introduce Mayor Lino Ortizo Montilla. Being in the public service for more than 2 decades, Mayor Lino Montilla can clearly be touted as a seasoned public servant. He started his foray in politics in 1995 when he won as vice mayor of the municipality of Tacurong, and carrying the people's mandate, held on to the position for 2 terms. In 2001, a year after Tacurong cityhood, Mayor Lino got the distinction as the first elected city mayor of Tacurong. In just his first 3 years in office as LCE, he was already able to carve his name in local history as one of the best performing mayors Tacurong has ever had. And in 2019 elections, he got a landslide victory, this time as vice mayor, when he tandemed with his brother Angelo Roncal Montilla, who won as the mayor of the city. The two brothers worked and achieved several milestones, even with the onset of COVID-19. But unfortunately, we lost Mayor Roncal from COVID as he succumbed from and died from COVID-19. So Mayor Lino took over the reins of leadership on June 7 of this year with a promise to continue what his brother had started. Our third local chief executive to speak is the mayor of Pagsanghan, Samar, Mayor Edgar C. Tan. So Mayor Edgar Tan has been a public servant for 24 years. He first served as councilor in the municipality of Pagsanghan, Samar, and is currently now on his 3rd term as local chief executive. Mayor Tan has been engaged in the leadership and governance program of the Zwilig Family Foundation. The prevalence of maternal deaths was the most pressing health issue in the municipality, which became the focus of his engagement with the Health Leaders for the Poor program in 2013 of the Zwilig Family Foundation. In his leadership, Pagsanghan was able to maintain a 0 maternal death, and now he is engaged under the Provincial Nutrition Governance Program of ZFF, aiming to improve nutrition outcomes. So these are our 3 local chief executive speakers, Dr. Mariden.
Yeah, welcome to the PCPD webinar. And how about Dr. Auster's role?
Of
Hello?
course, my boss, our the executive director of the Zwilig Family Foundation, will do the synthesis after the 5 speakers. But let me introduce also my boss from the Zwilig Family Foundation, the former Undersecretary of the DILG, Sir Auster Panadero. So in his role in the Zwilig Family Foundation, which aims to improve nutrition in the first 1,000 days, and that recognizes the local leadership as a key changer in the systems toward better nutrition and health outcomes. So Mr. Panadero, Sir Auster, was Undersecretary of the DILG until his retirement in 2016 for being an exemplar public official who has dedicated his life to ensuring that local governments are accountable, transparent, and results-based. The Ateneo de Manila University confirmed him in 2016 with the Government Service Award. So let's all welcome them, Dr. Manila.
Okay, welcome to this PCPD webinar, the second part of our nutrition webinar series. And by the way, I would just like to mention this. On September 28th this year, we will be holding another webinar on malnutrition. This time, it will be bridging the gap between production and consumption. That would be interesting. So now, let's go to our first speaker, Dr. Martin Pareño.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marilen and Dr. Tony Boy. Allow me to just pull my presentation in a while, and then we can start off with the first discussion. And my profound thanks definitely to the PCPD and the Zwilig Family Foundation for this opportunity again to speak with you. And then also thanks and welcome to my co-resource persons today, And of course, thank you also to Director Sir Ostier Panadero and the rest of the listeners wherever you are in the Philippines. So my presentation is about the global food security and nutritional status, to be followed by the presentation of Dr. Barba on the nutrition situation in the Philippines. So this is the outline. As you can see here, I'm be focusing more on the World Health Assembly targets and the SDG, what it is all about, the framework and concepts and the causes of malnutrition and the indicators. Then to be followed by Dr. Barba's presentation on nutrition and growth, the nutrition situation in the Philippines, how to address malnutrition, what are the PPAN challenges and opportunities, and what are the model local government units and success stories we have, which we can learn from. So I'll go directly to the first point. So the reason why we are having these different targets, because there are two target setting assemblies globally. The first one is the World Health Assembly, and the second one is the United Nations General Assembly, both of which have their own individual targets but are connected with each other. So, for example, the World Health Assembly is trying to reach reduction of stunting, anemia, low birth weight, overweight, and obesity, as well as exclusive breastfeeding and wasting by 2025. But the SDG, which is set for the next 15 years, starting from 2016 up to 2030, developed these 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And some of the indicators of the World Health Assembly are also within, particularly in the SDG number 2, which is zero hunger. So this is the reason why we are having these different targets. And now comparing the two targets, they are looking at the reduction of stunting by 2025, 40% from the baseline, but definitely for 2030, it's going to be 15%. For anemia, no change, the reduction is at 50%. Low birth weight, reduction is at 30% for both targets. And for overweight, no increase for the World Health Assembly, and reduction or maintaining below 3% of the population of children under 5 with overweight by the SDG. For breastfeeding, at least to increase by 50% from the baseline. When you say baseline, that's 2015. And it's even higher for SDG, which is at 70%. For wasting, we need to maintain or reduce the prevalence by less than 5%. And it's even lower in SDG, that's less than 33%. So now, some of the basic concepts. We know that maternal child malnutrition have different causes, and some of those are those in boxes, no, diets, care problem, food insecurity, feeding issues, environment and health, the beliefs and the norms, resources, gaps in the resources, and the governance. And if we're going to try to look at what are those, here they are. It's very busy slide. I will not go into the details of that, but later on, Dr. Barba will gonna discuss all of those. Next. So these are just to give you some overview or snapshot. What are the different types of malnutrition in the Philippines, particularly for children, and this even for the whole world. So we have stunting, meaning to say short for their height, for their age rather, underweight, wasting, yung butot balat, and then overweight, it's overnutrition. And I'm going to give you some useful concepts in planning and strategic decision making later on. The first one is that the causes of malnutrition is definitely different. No, it's not always about food insufficiency. It's feeding is not always the answer to solve malnutrition. That's the first thing that we should think about. Second, complementary feeding for a child requires TFADs. So remember this, TFADs. I just coined it this morning para mabilis lang po siyang maintindihan, no, at ma-memorize. TFAD would stand for timing, meaning to say edad, kung kailan pwedeng mag-start ng feeding. Frequency, gaano kadalas. The right amount, yung quantity niya. Diversity, gaano kaiba-iba yung grupo ng pagkain. And the stimulation, meaning to say, how do you respond to the need of a child na kailangan magkasabay kayong kumakain para ma-stimulate siya na kumain. The third concept I would like to share with you is that the lack of access to water, sanitation, and hygiene has a huge impact on malnutrition. And there are three terminologies here which I'm going to discuss later on. The first one is diarrhea, parasitic infection or mga bulate, and then chronic enteropathy. So yung chronic enteropathy, parang bagong concept sa atin, no? But all of these have impact on decreasing nutrient absorption of the body. So kahit anong feeding pang gagawin natin later on, but if you're not going to address a problem on water, sanitation, and hygiene, then definitely malnutrition will still persist. And then repeated bouts of wasting results to stunting. So meaning to say, kailangan natin na dapat ma-address ang wasting. If not, then it will result to stunting later on. The prevention of malnutrition are the same, but their manifestation, if unaddressed, are different and at different timelines. And then the fifth one is the misconception and beliefs of maternal and child care are socio-cultural barriers in achieving good nutrition. I will go into the details. So look at this, no? It's also a busy slide, but what I'm saying here is iba-iba ang rason kung bakit nagkaroon ng malnutrition. Baka poor ang health system, baka poor ang food system, poor ang water sanitation and hygiene environment. Baka mataas ang socio-cultural barriers like yung mga misbeliefs natin, norms, no? And insufficient social protection, meaning to say for example, 4Ps is not covering the most needed, those who are marginalized. And baka kulang din tayo sa monitoring and surveillance. And because of all of those problems, this could lead to poor growth and development, which has two impacts, no? Yung short-term and long-term. When we say short-term, immediate, kaagad-agad, no? So pwedeng silang mamatay o magkasakit. Pwedeng delayed ang brain development niya, speech, pati yung motor development. Hindi makalakad kaagad yung bata. And definitely increase yung cost of treatment kasi pabalik-balik ka sa hospital. On the long term, the problem is short stature, pandak. And then later on, this will result to obesity and having non-communicable diseases like hypertension and diabetes. Infertility, poor learning capacity and decreased work capacity and productivity, definitely. The other concept is the complementary feeding. TFADs, no? Remember TFAD. One, timing. Kailangan dapat pagkapatak ng 6 months na edad, pagkatungtong na bata sa edad na 6 months, doon ka magsimula ng feeding mo. Hindi pwede na 4 months old, papakainin mo na. At tapos, dapat itong complementary feeding should be continued, no, up to the age of 23 months and even beyond. And then dapat frequent, no? Makita natin dito na for a child na breastfed, age 6 to 8 months old, kailangan 2 times a day. 3 times a day for those aged 9 to 23 months. But if the child is not breastfed, then dapat mas marami, no? Ang frequency niya dapat 4 times a day. Hindi lang dapat frequent ang pagkain, dapat exact yung amount niya. Example, makita natin dito, no, for a child age 6 to 8 months, kailangan dapat 2 times a day, no? Kaya ang picture natin may umaga at hapon. And then nakita natin dito na may example siya na dapat breastfed siya. At the same time, binibigyan siya ng pagkain in that amount of the spoons na equivalent doon. At kailangan yung spoon, yung pagkain sa spoon ay dapat very thick. Hindi siya dapat liquid. Kasi pag thick, meaning to say, mas mataas ang nutrient content niya. Pag puro sabaw lang, edi wala siyang makuha, puro sabaw lang. The other one is diversity. Dapat mawala na we will go away with the term go, glow, and grow. Kailangan dapat 8 food groups na siya. As you will notice, dapat for a child para makain siya ng diverse food, kailangan 5, at least 5 out of the 8 food groups ang kinakain niya in one day. And then that includes also breast milk, the one in pink. If you will notice, no, yung go food natin, hindi pa rin na iba. That's still number 2. That's the grains, rice, and root crops. But the glow, nanganak na sa dalawa. Yung number 3 and number 7, the vitamin A-rich fruits and vegetables, and the other fruits and vegetables. And then yung grow natin, nanganak din sa 4. Fish and meat, legumes and nuts, eggs, milk, dairy. The reason bakit na ginawa natin siyang 8 food groups, mainly because the purpose is hindi lahat ng nutrients na kukuha sa isang food group lang. Kailangan dapat iba-iba siya. At pag iba-iba, then definitely we can prevent malnutrition from happening. You don't need to buy vitamins and minerals sa mga market natin o sa pharmacy. And the other one is stimulation. Dapat may kasamang nanay na nag-aalaga, nagtuturo sa bata kung anong kinakain niya para ma-appreciate ng bata yung kinakain niya. Hindi pwede na bigyan mo lang siya ng pagkain sa kanyang upuan and allow him to eat the food by himself. Dapat hindi. Hindi dapat ganoon. Dapat kailangan may nagtuturo sa kanya kung anong kinakain niya para ma-appreciate niyang food. Because sometimes, no, pag may bagong food kang binibigay sa kanya, yung mga mapapait, hindi yan kakain ng bata. But then if the mother tells the child na, hey, dapat kainin mo yan kasi it's good for your eyes, it's good for your body, etc. At saka masarap ito, then that will tickle the mind of a child. And that's what we call stimulation. So in short, TFADs, timing, frequency, amount, diversity, and stimulation. Other concept, the lack of access to water and sanitation has an impact on malnutrition, particularly diarrhea. There you go. The other one is parasitic infection and chronic enteropathy. Itong tatlo, ang resulta ng hindi maayos na water and sanitation and hygiene. Walang toilet sa area, yung water system natin hindi improved, Kaya namamalagi yung mga bakterya at mga bulate sa tiyan. As a result, what happens is that the linings of your intestine becomes flattened. Yung normal na itsura ng intestinal lining natin ay yung maraming mga parang kamay. Ito yung nasa left side, no? Yung pink, normal. Pero pag ang bakterya ay dyan namamalagi dahil always na ang iniinom natin na tubig ay hindi potable, tapos sabi natin, ay hindi naman siya nagtatae or something like that. Because yung katawan niya parang nag-get used na sa tubig na hindi potable. Kaya nagkaroon tuloy ng chronic enteropathy, meaning to say, prolonged inflammation of the intestine, leading to the flattening of the lining of the intestine. Kaya na hihinder niya ang absorption ng nutrients. So kahit ilang feeding program pang gagawin natin, basta hindi mo na-deworm ang bata, hindi mo siya nabigyan ng magandang sanitation and hygiene, then definitely malnutrition will still persist. Then the other concept is yung repeated bouts of wasting will result to stunting. I think I will not go into the details kasi the picture would speak for itself. Kasi every time na wasted yung bata, no, nagsisiso yung kanyang nutritional status. So parang every time, 3 times a week, 3 times a year, nagiging acutely malnourished siya or wasted or payat na payat. So to the point of resulting to chronic malnutrition. And Dr. Barba will speak about that later on. The other one is misconceptions and beliefs on maternal and childcare are social-cultural barriers in achieving good nutrition. Parang always natin narinig itong mga words na bawal, di dapat. Halimbawa, bawal maligo if may buwan ng dalaw. That's hygiene issue. Pag-aalaga ng bata, trabaho ng babae yan. Mababawasan pagkalalaki ko yan pag ako mag-aalaga ng anak ko. Or maliit lang ang tiyan ng bata, di kailangan marami ang pagkain. Dapat maraming sabaw para manunok ng bata at mangangamote ka mamaya sa exam or pupulutin ka sa kangkungan. But we know that this kamote is rich in vitamin A and fibers, right? And then even the kangkong is rich in vitamin A and minerals. Sometimes, ginagamit natin siya sa mga expressions to the point na parang, ayokong kumain ng kamote o ayokong kumain ng kangkong kasi yun nga, pupulutin ka sa kangkungan. Alright. Next, so I'm going to speak about food security and nutrition indicators. So we have something for the whole population. 0 to 6 months, 6 months to less than 5 years old for the adult and women of reproductive age. But I'm just going to talk about the global situation right now. For the details for the national level, it's going to be Dr. Barba. As you can see in the slide here, this is based on the food security and nutrition report done by WFP or World Food Program, WHO, IFAD, FAO, and UNICEF in 2021. You can see here that the prevalence of undernourished people from 2005 until 2020 has literally dropped actually up to the middle of 2018 and 2019. Not until because of the pandemic, it again increased to some certain number. Like the global undernourished people is now at 9.9%. But look at which areas or continents we are having high magnitude of undernourished people. It's really more in Africa, 21%, followed by Asia at 9%. If you can see, this is about equivalent to 720 to 811 million people. Because of the COVID-19, it increased by 115 to 161 more people undernourished. All right. So where are they? Most of them are in Asia. It's very surprising because it used to be African countries. But look at this right now. Among the 768 million undernourished people in the world, almost more than half of that came from Asia, followed by Africa at 282 million. Now, looking at the food insecure people from 2014 to 2020, you can see here the different data from the different continents in the world. But those in red bars are people who are suffering from severe food insecurity. The one in orange are the people who are suffering from moderate insecurity. If you are to combine both, this is equivalent to 2.37 billion people who are food insecure globally. And that is already amounting to 1/3 of the population. So it's very glaring. Now, looking at the affordability of nutritious diet, before COVID, only this much of people are not able to afford nutritious diet. But then because of the COVID-19, it increased by 17% or 220 more people or households in the world who cannot afford nutrient adequate diet. Kaya tumataas na naman ang malnutrition natin. And the biggest chunk of that comes from the Southeast Asia, the one in orange down below. Now, are different thresholds, and these are the data that we are going to use in developing our nutrition strategy and program later on. And this is very important, particularly to our local chief executives, because they need to define what is the level of malnutrition and what those figures mean. And pag nalaman natin yung figures na yun, what are the next step that we are going to do? If you can see here, there are different thresholds for stunting, the one in blue, and wasting, the one in gray. But look at this, it's already updated, no? From 2018, from 1995, it's being used by FNRI. It now improved and then updated in 2018. So mas mataas. Say for example, in the case of stunting, way back in 1995, when we defined very high stunting, that is a prevalence of more than or equal to 40%. But the updated version of 2018 would tell us that if the prevalence is already more than or equal to 30%, that is already very, very high. The same is true with wasting. Now, let's look at where are we right now in terms of targeting. As you can see here, ito yung different indicators set by the World Health Assembly and by the SDG. No? You can see here the one in purple, yung low birth weight, exclusive breastfeeding in green, then down the line. As you can see, yung gray naman ay yung mga targets natin in 2025 and 2030. But our current situation is that hindi natin ma-achieve yung mga targets na yan. Example, in the case of stunting, it's already 149.2 million. And the current status at 2020 is we have about 22%. It's very high. The target for 2025 is 15.4. For 2030, it's 12.8. So marami pa tayong kakaining bigas. Matagal-tagal pa po ito. Then, the same is true with that. That is a number of children globally who are wasted and children who are overweight. Now, most children with malnutrition live in Africa and Asia. You can see it here directly in your slide, right? So more than half are from Asia. Next, so where do wasted children live? You can see here that Southeast Asia belongs to the very high category. Yung mga naka-purple na mga countries, ito yung may very high stunting prevalence. Then, next, for wasted children. So most of the countries are in orange and pink. So mataas pa rin, ano? It's already 6.7% medium globally. But for the Southeast Asia, we belong to the 8.2 or medium category. The same is true with overweight and obesity. The good thing here is lahat ng countries ay green. So maganda, hindi tumataas ang overweight and obesity natin. So what are the main drivers on the recent food security and nutrition trends globally? In the last 10 years, this is mainly because the frequency of conflict, climate problem, and extremes of economic slowdown turns have increased significantly. Second is it was exacerbated by COVID-19 that led to the rise in the food prices, and definitely marami ang hindi makaka-achieve ng nutritious diet. Then there are multiple drivers, and most of these children live in those areas with multiple reasons why there is malnutrition. And the last one is we have drivers like conflict and shocks and low productivity and efficient food supply chain, leading to unaffordability of healthy diets. Now, at this time around, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Barba to continue the discussion. Dr. Barba, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Martin. For my section, we will focus on nutrition and growth, particularly the first 1,000 days of life. As we know very well, the first 1,000 days of life is the major or the key program that is being pursued by the Philippine Plan of Action for Nutrition because of its importance. In the next slide, we will be able to see brain growth and development. And this slide will indicate essentially how our brain grows and develops. So that if you look at the different trimesters, you will see that by the end of the third trimester, it has grown much already, almost about 25% of the adult brain weight. Development will take some time as we, and the importance of stimulation, as Martin had indicated, is very important so that the brain gets developed fully. In the next slide, we will see the changes in the body proportion. This is a comparison of a baby in terms of the different changes in the body proportion. Note that the head of the baby is almost doubled when you become an adult. The arm is almost fourfold. The chest is threefold, and the leg portion is fivefold. So you will see that in general, the head is going to be smaller than the whole body. And essentially, this is an important thing. And that is the reason why we tend to look at length for babies who are below 2 years of age and height for children over 2 years. And stunting becomes a major indicator that becomes also a proxy indicator of how we developed our brain. In the next slide, you will see the growth of the 4 types of body tissues as percent of adult body size. There is a red line that would indicate the 2 years of age. So if you look at the graph, you will note that at 2 years of age, essentially, the brain growth is going to be very much for about 50 to 60% of the total growth. Note that later on, and in fact, when you look at the growth during the preschool age, it is almost very close to about 50 to 60%. So note that the growth of the brain towards right after the first 5 years of life is going to be a lot slower. And as you become a teenager, you will see that it is rather slow. The solid line gives us the general growth of the body. So in comparison, you will see that the growth basically of the brain is much faster during the first few years of life, considering the other parts of the body, except probably for the lymphoid system, because it is the one that helps us in terms of immunity. So in the next slide, we will see what Dr. Martin has indicated. And these are essentially the measures of underweight and overweight. There are many other nutritional deficiencies, particularly those pertaining to mineral and vitamins like anemia, vitamin A deficiency. But we will focus on the macronutrients, and that would be looking at stunting, wasting, and undernutrition. And on the other side, our overnutrition. Here, I would like to point out, as Dr. Martin had indicated, the different indicators that we use in measuring nutrition situation. For our adolescent girls, we look at percent stunting, wasting, anemia, and teenage pregnancy. Teenage pregnancy is very important because we realize that it is becoming to be higher. And in general, teenagers tend to be more malnourished than their adult counterpart. I think this is because most of them are not ready, and also the nutrient needs compete with the own needs of the teenager. In addition to that, most of them tend to hide that they are pregnant. So sometimes it becomes very late, and that is the reason for a high low birth rate for the adolescents. For pregnant and lactating, we will have to look if the pregnant woman is nutritionally at risk. That is the weight for the height of that woman, pre-pregnancy is not normal, and therefore would need a higher weight gain compared to one who has a normal weight. In addition, we look at anemia because we realize that there are also blood losses during the pregnancy, during the delivery particularly. Although there are savings during pregnancy because you do not menstruate anymore, sometimes they may not be enough because of the loss of blood during delivery. And for lactating women, we look at chronic energy deficiency because if they are very thin and lack energy, then obviously milk production may also be affected. Among the newborn, we look at low birth weight, and that is an important indicator. Although in the Philippines, it has gone down considerably from 21%, which has been there for so many decades, to 15% now, because low birth weight will mean that at birth, the child is already at risk, and therefore we will have to do something about it. And track exclusive breastfeeding. Fortunately, it goes up, but not to the level that we would like to, so it would look like we may not meet our global targets. And obviously, we will look at the average period of exclusive breastfeeding, which is right now about 4.4 months. So 1.6 months still losing. And so what do we give during that 1.6 months? Obviously, some of the milk that is given may not be the proper milk. And in addition, other foods will not suffice and will not be equivalent to the mother's milk, which is the only food that is perfect for the first 6 months. For 6 months to 2 years, again, we have stunting and wasting that we look into to a certain extent overweight, but that's not much of a problem in the Philippines right now. And we pay attention into minimum diet diversity, as Dr. Martin had indicated. How diverse is the diet? From the 8 food groups that has to be given, how much do you give daily? And most of the time, this is very, very low. And the minimum acceptable diet is a combination of diet diversity and minimum food frequency. The data of FNRI suggests that we have very high frequency. I think we tend to give about little every now and then. But since the total amount is not sufficient and the diet diversity is low, the total MAD becomes low also. So let us look at the first 1,000 days. Here you will see the various indicators that are being tracked in the first 1,000 days, as I have indicated earlier. So that, again, if you look at at the pre-pregnancy, we look at stunting, wasting, anemia, and teenage pregnancy. For pregnancy, we look at the nutritionally at risk. There is a table which is known as Magbitang table, which I think has been given to all of the LGUs. So you can refer to it, or you can always look at the BMI of the pre-pregnant women and then track it according to the weight gain for the month in pregnancy. And then, of course, anemia, which we have discussed earlier. And for the lactating women, we want to make sure that they are not chronic energy deficient. Otherwise, food supplementation may be given for the pregnant and the lactating women. And again, watch out for anemia because it has something to do also with milk production. For our newborn, I've already indicated low birth weight. So if the baby is less than 2.5 kilograms, then that's going to be low birth weight. And we want to make sure that the baby is properly treated. So there will be an early catch up of the weight of the baby, at least during the time that there is exclusive breastfeeding. For 6 months to 2 years, you will see the importance essentially of your complementary feeding. And again, there are tables that indicate what we should give from 6 months to 2 years. In the first month or the 6th month, generally we tend to say give only one food, a new food per day, because we wanted to make sure that there will be no allergy. But subsequently, after you have introduced, at least at the middle of the month, you will be able to combine different food items where you know no allergic reaction can be seen. And this is very important so that the baby does not go into wasting, which can lead to stunting later on, or neither would have anemia. Again, the importance of looking at the dietary diversity and the total acceptable diet is very important, and we have to make sure that we meet the requirements. So how do we address malnutrition? I know all of you will agree that the Philippine government is committed to attain our objectives for good nutrition, because we realize that good nutrition will result into good human capital and human productivity. In the last webinar that was sponsored by these agencies also, we had our undersecretary from NEDA, we had our executive director from the National Nutrition Council that had discussed and told us about the importance of nutrition. So from all points of view, the executive government even have organized the Zero Task Hunger to fast track basically the solution for addressing malnutrition. And of course, we have the PPAN 2017 to 2022 that would have nutrition specific and nutrition sensitive recommendations with regards to programs, and also enabling mechanism that would tell us why it should go down to the LGU, how it should be financed, how it should be monitored. All of this, I hope all of your LGUs up to the barangay level would have copies of this. If not, you can always go to the NNC website to make sure that you have a copy. So let us look at the Philippine Plan of Action. In the Philippine Plan of Action, it tells us what are our main objectives. What do we want to attain by 2022, leading to 2025, which is the World Health Assembly, and 2030, so that we are able to meet our sustainable development goals. So we want to make sure that we are able to reduce wasting, stunting, undernutrition, and other micronutrient deficiencies. And we want to make sure that the situation of overweight and obesity is not going to exceed 5%. If you look at the data of the FNRI, you will find out that we seem to be doing well, and there is a reduction, although not to the extent that we would want to. But even the COVID situation, I think whatever we reduce, the high 30s up to 28.8% in 2019 will probably be lost because of what is happening now because of the pandemic or the COVID-19. So that when we address malnutrition, what do I think as challenges? One, data statistics. So I will ask all of those who are here, particularly who are members of the nutrition task forces or members of the nutrition committees in all of the LGUs, how good our data is, because most of the time, some of the data or some of the statistics do have poor quality. And later on, we'll give you an example. And then how do we interpret our data? Then we will have to look at what are some of the problems in program integration, given that resources and allocations may not be sufficient. And also, how do we integrate services in the, and we will go down into the municipal or even to the barangay level, because to me, that is the seat of action. And lastly, we will pay attention to leadership, because it is important that we have leaders that do believe that nutrition is really an important aspect of the development of the human capital. And therefore, we'll explore all kinds of partnership opportunities so that everybody will be taking care of the whole village in making sure that malnutrition is alleviated. So ano ang pwede natin gawin? What else can we do? So if you look at this, in 2015, I made a comparison of the OPT using underweight. And underweight is the easiest because you only look at the weight for the age. Some height for age is a little more difficult. I think you will agree with me that taking the height is more difficult than taking the weight. And if you look at weight for height, it becomes more difficult because you have two indicators. But this is an example of a province that reported they had only 2% of underweight. Using the FNRI survey, the FNR survey indicated that they have 13.2. And there is a long list that we have taken. Obviously, during that time in 2013, it was almost like there is really no problem in underweight in this country because the records that we have gotten are very low using the 2013 OPT. But whenever you compare it with the FNRI NNS, you will see that the differences are high, fourfold, threefold, and so on. So in 2019, we look at the same provinces. So again, you will see that the disparity is still there. Maybe it became lower a little bit, but still the distance between the OPT that has been reported in the website of NNC and the 2019 ENNS are really different from each other. You will note that the data is either 2019 or 2018 for the ENNS because FNRI decided to do provincial survey for 2018, 2019, and 2020. Unfortunately, the 2020 did not go through because of the pandemic. But right now, FNRI is on the field collecting data. So very soon we will have data of where we are in nutrition given the effect of the pandemic. So the null data there for province is simply because that province was supposed to be for 2020. But note, what I am saying is look at the huge difference, because when you plan, you will have to make sure that your data is of high quality.
5 minutes po, Dr. Barbas.
Okay, so let us look at the stunting prevalence. So for example, if your stunting prevalence is 35%, what does it mean? So if you look at that, you will have, as Martin had indicated, if it is 35%, it is going to be very high. So it used to be that the cutoff is 40%, but now it has been lowered. And the FNRI report still use the old one, and we have talked with them to shift to the 2018 WHO. So we are at par with the rest of the world. So how do we make our plan? So if you look at this, we will have to look at what is really the problem and how do we prioritize it. What could we do to bring down stunting? We may know the number or the percentage of stunting that we have, but with the many problems that is given in the PPAN, which one do we select? Thus, it is important that you know the determinants of your nutrition. Dr. Martin alluded to, so you would have to look, how is your health system? How is your food system? How is your water, sanitation, hygiene, and environment? You talk with your mother, so you know some of the social cultural barriers. Do you really monitor? And is there surveillance? And what is the effect of the social protection? Are there new families that are really very poor that we should tell DSWD that they should be added to the social protection? What I am saying is it is important that we know the determinants. We know why do we have the problem in our community before we will be able to give the correct solution. In the next slide, basically you will see here the different programs and projects that can be done, because it is important that we do program allocation. We see it, there's somebody from agriculture, DSWD, and so on. It is important that they are integrated with each other. I feel that we should have the spot map back, but because if you have the spot map, you know where the families are with problems of nutrition. Let us give all our partners in the council these families, so that at least the agriculturists can give attention to them in terms of giving seed, in terms of giving training. Those from the DSWD can include, if it is necessary, that they be included, and so on. So here, it is important that we look at who is the target in the community. What groups are we looking at? What groups are we look at? Because it is important that we link our food system with our nutrition systems and our nutrition data. In the next slide, essentially, again, what we're saying is the leadership is very important. And therefore, our mayors, our barangay captain, our governors in the LGU should make sure that food and nutrition security is important through looking at the data, the determinants, and making sure that we have a very good strategic planning that can impact basically our human capital and economy. But a word about training. Sometimes our training is very good at the national, at the regional level. It's about 5 days, then it goes to the province. It's 3 days when it goes to the municipality. You're lucky if you have 1 day. So what do we learn? And these people who are on the ground should be the ones that should know a lot more, because they are the ones who talk with our mothers. So nasaan ang solution? Again, if we look at that, the solution is on us. Each of us plays a role. Maybe the ones who are there in the field are more important because they get in touch with our mothers. We are fortunate now because the government is really making sure that we eradicate malnutrition. Again, as I've said, our interagency task force on zero hunger, and we have 2 big summits, the UN Food System Summit, where Secretary Dar had presented our plans for to make sure that we have a secure food system. And basically, nutrition is an important component in all the 5 action tracks. Nutrition for Growth will be coming very soon. And again, it is centered on what we can do with regards to nutrition in terms of health, food, and resilience. So with this, you will see that there are many things that you can look into. Malabon has a program where basically they feed children, and in feeding these particular children, they have seen that there is a reduction of malnutrition, particularly of stunting and underweight. Quezon was one of the first who had published a lot of things with regards to their program in the first 1,000 days. And you will see that essentially, all of these are important. In the NNC, they have a compilation of ordinances that has been done in the different municipalities, also of experiences. I suggest that if you have not seen them, look at them, browse over them, see what is acceptable to you, see what is suited in your municipality, and put them together, and you may even have a better plan than the ones who have succeeded right now. So a good plan, again, starts with accurate data and good analysis. We have to make sure that your data is not only accurate, it is reliable, and we have to make sure that we know how to analyze them. And using that for the basis of planning, then we will have to make sure that all our services are integrated so that we attain our objectives. And again, I cannot overemphasize leadership and partnership because they are very important in the planning, implementation, and making sure that we monitor and we evaluate our data. With that, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Martin Pareño and Dr. Corazon Barba for the joint presentation on the causes of malnutrition, the determinants of stunting in the country as well as globally, and the indicators on nutrition set by the SDGs and the World Health Assembly. I think what my takeaway from Doc Martin's presentation is the concepts on policy development and program planning, yung kanyang TFAD, the timing, frequency, amount, the D, and the sustainability. And then of course, Dr. Barba, she very well presented the first 1,000 days concept. Plus of course her recommendations. Una, the challenges on data integration and leadership, and then of course her recommendations. So with that, yes, Dr. Maria.
I also want to say something. Dr. Barba's presentation was really excellent. It really showed, why stunting, the importance of stunting, the importance of measurements, the importance of data. You got no data, you got no problem. Excuse me? Okay, go ahead, Donny Boy.
So thank you with that, Dr. So with that po, now I think si Dr. Barba also mentioned that ang solusyon ay nasa atin. And herein we will hear from our implementers on the ground, our integrators on the ground. So we'll start off po with the city mayor of Tacurong City, Mayor Lino Montilla. Mayor Lino, the floor is yours po.
Good morning, everyone, especially Governor Robert Oy of Zamboanga del Norte, Mayor Edgar Tan of Pagsanhan, Samar, our panelists, Dr. Martin Parino, Program Policy Officer of World Program Philippines, Dr. Corazon Barba, Professor Emeritus of UP Los Baños, and Mr. Oster Panadero, Executive Director of Swilig Family Foundation. I am Mayor Lino O. Montilla of Tacurong City. The city acknowledges that malnutrition is a serious public health concern. Thus, it should be considered as urgent. When the late Mayor Angelo Roncal Montilla accepted the challenge of the Swilig Family Foundation, Nutrition International as pilot city for implementation of the City Nutrition Governance Program. He pledged to put his mayoralty on the line. In other words, he will resign from office if he cannot deliver. I echo the same level of commitment made by my brother, not just in honor of his legacy, but because we share the same vision and this is the right thing to do. At the start of 2019, Tacurong City started from scratch with 34 reds, 6 yellows, and only 1 green in our nutrition scorecard. Although Tacurong has its nutrition programs and interventions, these were mainly focused on feeding and providing supplementation because that's the only method we know in handling the malnutrition problem in the city. But after partnering with the Swilig Family Foundation, Nutrition International, we identified inadequacies in our performance measurement system and implementation. We acknowledged that we were only providing band-aid solution rather than solving the problem as its core. We have identified agencies within the LGU that were implementing nutrition interventions without multi-sectoral referral and coordination. There were no full-time human resource that focuses on nutrition governance. There was no proper tracking system which resulted to the inaccurate data due to incapacitated health workers and barangay nutrition scholars. This challenged us to step up and improve nutrition governance operation measures. With the commitment and strong political will of our late Mayor Roncal Montilla, we have gained significant improvements in our nutrition status. I am committed with the City Nutrition Council, the membership of which has been expanded to include various sectors and civil society organizations to sustain and further improve our nutrition outcomes. One thing that may set us apart from other LGUs is our strong commitment to continue pushing for more nutrition intervention such as capacity building efforts with our very supportive partners, Swilig Family Foundation, Nutrition International, National Nutrition Council of Region 12, and sustainability mechanism through legislations and financing. Though many things still need to be done, the positive changes can now be felt down to the barangay level. Pagbabago na tulad ng pagiging aktibo ng aming City Nutrition Council, dati-rati walang mga naitatag na barangay nutrition councils. Walang training sa mga nutrition workers at dahil walang nagawang City Nutrition Action Plan sa loob ng maraming taon. Our data was not clearly tracked and validated. Previously, there was scarcity in our budget for nutrition. But now, we have nutrition budget. Itinaas din namin ang budget sa nutrition, kung saan pinapasiguro na kada taon ay mayroong 5% increase sa budget. Tinanggap namin na kami ay parte ng kakulangan kung kaya't naging membro kami ng pagbabago. Nagdagdag kami ng mga tao na tututok sa kalusugan at nutrisyon ng komunidad. Ang nutritionist na i-deploy ng Department of Health sa aming syudad ay inabsorb ng aming namayapang dating mayor. When I took the city leadership after the death of my brother, I hired 3 additional nurses in support to our health programs. And because of these efforts, the number of our nutritionally at-risk pregnant women was reduced from 32.4% in year 2019 to 6.1% in the year 2020. And the nutritional status of our 0 to 23-month-old children, or the F1 KD target population, was decreased. Underweight from 6.15% in year 2019 to 3.35% in 2021, wasted from 6.5% in 2019 to 2.8% in 2021, stunted from 9.9% in 2019 to 4.27% in 2021. The nutritional status of our 0 to 23 months old population is improving. This goes to show that our campaign Ugyon Takurong kontra Malnutrisyon, first 1,000 days law, suportado ko, is functional and effective. Ugyon means unite. And this is how we improve the nutritional status of our F1KD population. We unite as one, and based on our learnings, we have created innovative programs to solve malnutrition with multi-faceted approach. Our nutrition-specific programs include dietary supplementation, feeding programs, creation of clustered community kitchen, and for our nutrition-sensitive programs, the LGU provided livelihood assistance for the mothers, caregivers of those identified malnourished children, such as cash for work, for peace beneficiaries. Breads and pastries, they were also prioritized in the distribution of seedlings. Nutrition education is also one of our interventions, such as Buntis class, one-on-one counseling, house-to-house visitation, Nutri-Talk, and other advocacies like utilizing the social media platforms to disseminate right information easier amidst COVID-19 pandemic. Our City Nutrition Action Plan was the fruit of reactivating our City Nutrition Council and making it functional. This is the city's first ever comprehensive City Nutrition Action Plan. Health and nutrition issues and concern discussed in our CNC meetings are being addressed through the implementing of our CNAP. The goal is to improve food system and nutrition governance and overall quality of the population's diet and nutrition to ultimately promote health and well-being. Takurong City is the first in Sultan Kudarat to formulate barangay nutrition action plans. Nutrition governance takes a front seat in terms of priority programs of the current administration. Stunting and wasting are serious malnutrition problems that have long-lasting effect on the children. These are the problems and the current administration wanted to dramatically reduce, if not totally eradicate. Swillig Family Foundation and Nutrition International have also become essential partners of Takurong in mainstreaming urban nutrition governance program anchored on the framework of the first 1,000 days law, our Republic Act 11148. The formulation of BNAPs were assisted by the National Nutrition Council 12. We commend the efforts of our volunteers and we recognize their contribution in implementing our nutrition plans and programs. In 2020, late Mayor Angelo Montilla approved the upgrading of job order status of 5 barangay nutrition scholars and 5 barangay health workers. All BNS and BHWs of the city undergo continuous capacity development. The LGU recognized the BNS and the BHW's vital role by promoting their welfare as part of the government in the delivery of basic nutrition and health services to the grassroots. Under my current leadership, I intend to hire 20 more BHWs and BNS under job order contracts. We also initiated another initiatives related to our nutrition programs. The annual Search for Cleanest and Greenest Barangay program aims to establish clean and safe environment, community garden, and household backyard garden, and to unite communities. This has positively changed the behavior of the community. Community and household backyard garden produce products to be sold to the markets provided by the barangay council that will help the barangay and the community with their own income generation. Through this program, the community learned how to value the importance of having a community and household backyard garden, clean and safe environment. The continuous concreting and rehabilitation of farm-to-market roads are another initiative in support to our community and our farmers. The city ensures the connection of rural or agricultural areas to market towns that will help them in their everyday living. The city allocated 20% of the budget from the Development Fund as our counterpart in the Department of Agriculture. The City of Tacorong KSK Batch 176 farmers who graduated in the Kabalikat as Kabuhayan Farmers Training Program of SM Foundation Incorporated in cooperation with the local government unit of Tacorong and are residents of different barangays of the city manage a sustainable project that will uplift the living standard of the small farmers. They sell on Mondays and Fridays at the exit gate of the Tacorong City Hall. The city envisioned to increase the household's income of the members of the association up to 20% annually and a steady supply of vegetable in the local market. The LGU also organized clustering of satellite markets, making the local produce available within the community. In summary, these are the 5 takeaways the LGU has learned through the CNGP and our experiences. 1. Investment in nutrition. 2. Sustained nutrition-specific and sensitive interventions. 3. Strong commitment and political will. And 4. Evidence-based intervention. And 5. Finding and hiring the right people. I'm Lino Montilla, City Mayor of Tacorong. Marami pong salamat.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Lino Montilla of Tacorong City. He very well explained po, no, yung really the need to continue yung mga programs and services in nutrition. Offhand, I think ito po yung mga nasimulan ng kanyang kapatid na si Mayor Roncal Montilla. And more importantly, really to sustain investments for nutrition and first 1,000 days. So, Dr. Marilen, if with your permission, let's proceed na po to our second LCE speaker.
Yes.
Okay, so our second local chief executive is the municipal mayor of Pagsanhan, Samar, Mayor Edgar Tan. Mayor, take it away po. Mayor, you're on mute, sir.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, we can hear you na po, Mayor. Good morning.
Good morning. May I proceed?
Go ahead, Mayor.
Good day to all health and nutrition leaders of the Philippines. I am Edgar C. Tan, the Municipal Mayor of Pagsanhan. This morning, allow me to tell our story on how engaging the barangays and other intersectoral stakeholders for nutrition. Welcome to mystical municipality of Pagsangan, also known as Lost City of Biringan, and is one of the municipalities so medyo ang signal,
Mayor.
mahina ang signal. Hello.
Yes, Mayor, we can hear you now.
Pagsangan is a people's municipality with 13 barangays and the population of 8,344. The main source of income are farming and fishing. We envision as well as nourished, empowered, and self-sufficient Pagsangananon living with healthy environment with responsive and competent nutrition service and providers by the year 2025. And we're proud to see, and also Pagsangan is declared as insurgency-free and also declared as 2017 a drug-cleared municipality. And soon we are one of barangay still of excellence for the drug-cleared municipality throughout the region.
Mayor Tan, we lost you po.
So over the years, the nutritional status of our children and municipality shown as gradual improvement. From the stunting prevalence of 29.1% in 2017, it was reduced by 24.3% in 2020, with majority of those stunted children belonging of 0 to 23 months. Children below 2 years old, while wasting prevalence among under 5 children
Mayor Tan.
in 2017 and prevalence and malnutrition in whole region. We look at the accuracy of our data. We found out that some of our BNS need refresher training. So we invested in training our barangay nutrition scholar on how to accurate to get the measurement over time. Our nutrition indicators improve with other intervention we implement. Here's some of the LGU's good practice and governance of nutrition. The strengthening the competencies, the volunteer workers. We strengthen the competencies of volunteer workers to implement health and nutrition program and active community engagement.
Mayor Tan, I think we lost you po again for the third time. Mayor Tan.
Yes.
Could we return to you? Would you have a better place po kaya
Yes.
for better
Yes.
signal?
That's right. And then
Para
we
we'll
can get back to you.
return to you po siguro after 20 minutes. We'll ask po si
Right.
Governor Uy to present first, if that's okay with you, Mayor.
Excellent.
Yes, so medyo mahina yung signal namin dito.
20 minutes. Sige.
Sayang.
Okay.
Sanali kang ano.
I see.
I-leave na nanilugod na yan sa cellphone na lalugod.
Sige, sige. Oh. Udyo na lalugod, ano? Ipanda nga cellphone na lang.
Okay, so should we return to you po, Mayor, mga after the presentation of Governor Uy?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay po, sige. So
Thank you.
let me ask lang po if Governor Uy is ready. Governor Uy?
This province.
Wala.
Governor, may we ask you po to have the floor and present?
Ito ba?
Okay.
Good morning po sa ating mga fellow public servant and our
Yeah. So let me introduce you lang po, Governor Uy. So well, apologies for the technical problems. While waiting for Mayor Tan to fix his connection issues, we're asking po si Governor Uy of Zamboanga del Norte to present his province's program on integrating nutrition and poverty alleviation. It's entitled Integrating Nutrition and Poverty Alleviation, Zamboanga del Norte's Enhanced Gasang Bahandianon para sa Umahan Program or EGB. So Governor, magandang umaga po and the floor is yours.
good morning po sa inyong lahat.
Share na sa sa tama, share.
I would like to share two Word of God from the Bible to Scripture. In Psalm 67 verse 1, may God be gracious to us and bless us and make his face shine upon us. Another word from the Lord in Acts chapter 20 verse 35. This is the most precious word. I have shown you in all things that by working hard in this way, we must help the weak, remembering the words that the Lord Jesus himself said, there is more happiness in giving than receiving. Good morning ulit to our organizer, PCPD, World Food Program and Swellig Family Foundation, to our very honorable Mayor Montilla and Mayor Tan, to our fellow workers in government and non-government services, good morning to you all. Mayong buntag sa tanan. It is with great honor and privilege to be here today to share with you what we have done and achieved so far in response to malnutrition. Rather, Tugon sa malnutrition, legacy of good LGU governance. Before I continue, let me introduce to you first our humble province of Zamboanga del Norte. Zamboanga del Norte is the biggest province in the whole Zamboanga Peninsula, Region 9. The southern tip of the province is the municipality of Sibuco, bordering Zamboanga City, which is most noted because of its peace and order problem. On the northern tip is the municipality of Rizal, bordering Misamis Occidental. On the east are the province of Zamboanga del Sur and Zamboanga Sibugay. On the northwest is the Sulu Sea. Predominantly hilly and mountainous area covers 85% of the total land area. 16.34% are generally mountainous making health services accessible to the residents not only due to its topography but also its insurgency problems. Zamboanga del Norte, with a population of 1,053,541 in 2021, is a first-class province with 25 municipalities and the two component cities of the Pitans City and Dipolog City. Zamboanga del Norte is predominantly Christian and 10% comprise the indigenous population and 5% Muslim. Truly, our province is rich with marine, mineral resources and is suitable for agriculture production. Its main products are corn, coconut, rice, yellowfin, tuna, and other fish products. But in spite of that, our province was put in the limelight when we ranked second from the bottom as the poorest province in the country, with a poverty incidence of 63% in 2003. And latest record shows a 37% poverty incident rate in 2018. Likewise, we have a high prevalence of stunting in the region at 17.12% in 2016. What can a simple businessman do with these pressing challenges? Because I am a businessman before, as introduced, I never dreamed to be a politician. I was happy in a thriving business, but God has other plans for my life. Because He said in Nehemiah chapter 9 verse 35, He gave you a lot of blessing, a lot of grace, but you do not in return serving the Lord. That's why I was challenged with that word of God. But God had other plans for my life. He placed me into a much higher calling by serving His people and setting them free from the bondage of poverty. I praise God that I am not alone to face these challenges. I have a strong team. I strongly believe that as long as we work together, all government agencies and other sectors alike, our pursuit toward a healthier, progressive, and food-secure Zamboanga del Norte can be achieved. We must always remember the Lord said in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 3, make every effort to keep the unity of spirit to the bond of peace. Kaya we belong to the one spirit of God, so we must be united in one spirit of God. Allow me to present the status of malnutrition in the past 5 years. I understand the green line represents wasting or the wait for link status. We can see a continuous decline from 2017 at 6.48% to 2.44% in 2021. On the other hand, the red line, which represents the weight for age or underweight status, also showed a declining trend, although very minimal. The same goes with the prevalence of stunting or the height for age status from 12.79% in 2017. This year, we have identified 9.87% of children of 59 months old with a stunted, as we call in our dialect as putot, bansot. Indeed, there is a reduction from 2017 to 2021. However, we can see that there is a slight increase of 0.58% from 2020 to 2021. How much effort our health workers and community volunteers put into somehow this pandemic has affected the delivery of services for a while. But as we come to adjust and adapt this new normal, we are back to business at full swing. Of course, keeping the safety of the workers at front. Although our nutrition indicators have been improving through the years, there are still municipalities with high prevalence of stunting, wasting, and underweight, and we all know that malnutrition commonly affects all growth in the community. However, infants and children are commonly most affected. This could be due to unstable food sources, nutritionally at-risk pregnant mothers, underutilization of maternal and child care services, knowledge deficit among primary caregivers, intermittent demand generation activities, and high teenage pregnancies. Likewise, this problem could also be linked with high rate of poverty and big family sizes. When a child is malnourished, this increases risk of getting infection, poor mental growth and development, and increased infant mortality. This will also result to increased health care costs, also reduces productivity for parents or caregivers, and slow economic growth, which continue a cycle of poverty and illness. Our journey started with assessment of our first 1,000 days, F1 KD, technical roadmap. This tool gives us a clear picture of our health and nutrition system and how it's operated. As we can see here, we only have 3 grain, but there is no grain in the leadership and governance building block in the province. The same goes with the municipal portion of this baseline roadmap. We have no increase in the barangay portion yet, but will be updated soon as once the barangay level governance program commences. However, when the F1 KD technical roadmap was updated this year, we already have some improvement as shown in the changes of our color codes. However, our resilient data and information system and policies remain a challenge. What we have done in order to improve nutrition system amidst the global challenge we are facing now. We are grateful for the provincial nutrition government program of UNICEF, COICA, and Suilik Family Foundation, which motivate us to activate and mobilize our provincial nutrition committee. Right now, we are regularly holding PNC meeting, and the past 2 months, we were inviting IMNAUs to share with us their accomplishment, challenges, and next plan of action. From these meetings, the province can provide support when necessary. We hired additional staff of the province nutrition office. Likewise, we have been providing additional incentives for the municipal action officers, municipal nutrition coordinators, barangay nutrition scholars, and this year, we started providing additional incentive for the barangay health workers. We have also increased our provincial budget for nutrition, specific and nutrition-sensitive programs in the province. To support water and sanitation program, we have ongoing water development project in more than 50 barangays province-wide in 2020, with fund support of 66.7 million. Likewise, passage of health and nutrition-related policies is in progress. In August, we launched the Complementary Food Production Center in the municipality of Rojas to ensure that we can have a continuous supply of food packs for our malnourished children. Worthy to note that the rice and mungo to be processed will be provided by the EGBU project. I mentioned earlier EGBU. What is EGBU? Zamboanga del Norte recorded the highest poverty incidence among the province of the region at 63% in 2003. In year 2015, we ranked it as the poorest in the country with a poverty incidence of 41.1%. Recently, poverty of the province reduced to 37% in 2018. My dream is through EGBU, the province will no longer be amongst the 10 poorest provinces in the country. I believe poverty influences health and nutrition outcomes in every family. The tendency is they will be food poor. They will lack the purchasing power to acquire daily necessities in life. Parents to send their children to school will have difficulties in accessing health and nutrition services, among others. EGBU is an anti-poverty program which aims of improving the living condition of the poor and marginalized farmers, capacitate them with new processes like organizational transformations, farming, processing, marketing techniques, enterprise building to make them productive citizens. In 2017, we started GBU or Gasang Bahandianon sa Umahan. Originally, GBU assisted by only corn and rice production. It supported vegetable production, fruit tree productions, livestock raising, fishery development, hence name, EGBU expanded Gasang Bahandianon sa Umahan. To date, this project caters 284 EGBU communities. Considered as implementing, most EGBU communities are composed of 50 to 100 households. Considered poorest of the poor farmers, including those who are landless and displaced farmers. This project directly coordinates with the communities with the intention that in spite of change of leadership, the project will be sustained and led by empowered members. On the other hand, EGBU contributes as number one, source of food as it enhances food availability and improve access to diverse diet. Number two, source of income from EGBU products and other agriculture-related activities, thereby increasing the purchasing power of every household. Number three, driver of food sources by affecting the range of supply and demand factors and influences the price of food. Number four, empowers women by enhancing their capacities, increasing their access to and control over resources and assets, and consequently augmenting their power to make decisions on the allocation of food, healthcare within their individual household. At present, 41% of women comprise EGBU's communities. Number five, ensure sustainable food and nutrition security and resilience. Even during the time of disruption, they can be assured of a continuous supply of food and income. Currently, we are looking into EGBU as a venue for integrating health and nutrition information and services. We aim to have an empowered community through increased awareness on health and nutrition programs through health and nutrition classes. Also, to establish and strengthen the EGBU core team to focus on the community's health and nutrition needs. and to improve the referral pathway for the identify several minority children in the community. In an LGU community in Sindangan, Municipality of Sindangan, Health and Nutrition information and education classes are regularly conducted. In other LGU community in the Municipality of Siayan, youth were tapped as peer educators to curb down the highest teenage pregnancy. This was last term as governor. Before then, I hope to see more health and nutrition improvements. I pray that we have started will be sustained. Indeed, multi-sectoral stakeholder collaboration and LCE engagement leads to cohesive and unified efforts. With improved information system, we can assure that plans are evidence-based and appropriately budgeted. Projects which bring forth good results should be sustained and expanded as possible, and importantly, the community and every Sanortihanos should be engaged and involved. Finally, all our endeavors, we dedicate to God, for He is the only one who makes all things possible. We're just instruments of His goodness. Yours, Lord, is the greatness and power and the glory, majesty, splendor, wisdom, victory, success, authority, covenant, and thanksgiving. Everything in heaven and earth is yours. Yours, Lord, is the kingdom. You are exalted as head over all. 1 Chronicles chapter 29, verse 11. Thank you, and I pray God will bless each one of us and continue to use us. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Governor Uy. Thank you so much for that. Tony Boy, who will be the next speaker?
Yeah, thank you, Governor Ur, for sharing your province's program on nutrition and its integration to poverty. No?
Tony, excuse me. Before we go on, I would just like to convey the messages that we've been getting to all the LCEs, the governor, the mayors, and then they're saying here, tuloy pa rin yung ginagawa nyo. Congratulations. Okay, Tony Boy.
Yeah, thank you, Doctora. Pasensya na po, Mayor Tan, for interrupting your presentation earlier, but we thank you for your patience. So we return na po to Mayor Edgar Tan of Pagsanhan, Samar. So now I think he has better signal. We can see him on video. Mayor Tan, the floor is yours po.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on. I think we lost him again. Let me just check po, no? Please bear with us.
Otherwise, kung wala pa si Mayor Tan, tapos hindi talaga siya maka-connect, because of very poor and spotty connections, probably we can start already. We should start the open forum now. And when he's okay, when Mayor Tan is okay, then he can come in again. Okay? I think we should start the open forum. Okay, Tony Boy, take it away.
Pero Doctor, we still have one integrating
yes, I forgot.
presentation.
Your boss. You also forgot him.
Sir Ostier. But if you can give me lang po 30 seconds, I'll just double check, Doctora,
yes,
if Mayor Tan could join us back.
And then,
but by the way, siguro, let's acknowledge lang po, further to your acknowledgement, Doctora, kanina, of the many LGUs present.
Yes.
I listed them down. Siguro it's opportune lang to mention them. So very quickly, I'll run through. No?
Yeah.
San Fernando Romblon, Prieto Diaz Sorsogon, Cagayan de Oro City, Tacloban City, Bagabag, if it is in Palawan, Dasmariñas Cavite, Naga City, San Miguel Zamboanga del Sur, Pasig City, Tagaytay, Batangas, San Jose Nueva Ecija, Davao City, Dinagat Islands, Calibo Aklan, Tignon, Camarines Sur, Catanduanes, Leyte, Zamboanga City, Basilan, Rodriguez Rizal, Luisiana, Laguna, Cebu, Donsol Laguna, Benguet, Ibisan, Capiz, Lucena, Antique, Cotabato, La Union, Bulacan, Nueva Vizcaya, Negros Occidental, Eastern Samar, and Nara, Palawan. So,
Impressive, no?
maraming salamat po for joining us.
And thank you so much talaga. Also, I would
There,
like to
so andyan na po
acknowledge-
si Mayor
Ay,
Tan.
okay, very good. Also, before that, I would like to acknowledge, Tony Boy, the presence of Professor Garilao. He's here.
Hi,
Okay.
Prof. Good morning po.
Morning. Okay. Go ahead, Mayor.
Hello, good morning.
Yan, better, Mayor. Good. We can
Ah,
hear you po loud
okay
and
na?
clear. Yes, Mayor, and we can see you.
Okay, thank you. Medyo nag-change kami ng venue from Municipal Hall to RHU. Medyo mahina yung signal doon sa Municipal Hall. And once again, good morning, especially to our Prof. Barilao. Medyo matagal na hindi kami nagkita since trainings of swilling. So, balik ako dito sa umpisa. I am
Go ahead,
Edgar
Mayor.
Sitan, the Municipal Mayor of Pagsangan, Samar. And this morning, allow me to tell our story on how engaging the barangays and other intersectoral stakeholders for nutrition. Pagsangan is the 5th class municipality with 13 barangays and population of 8,344, and the main source of income are farming and fishing. We envision as well as nourish and empower the self-sufficient Pagsangananon living with healthy environment with responsive and competent nutrition services and providers by the year 2025. And also, we're proud to see that Pagsangan is one of insurgency-free municipality and drug-cleared municipality since 2017. Next slide, please. The nutrition data of Pagsangan, Samar. Over the years, the nutritional status of our children in municipality shown the gradual improvement from stunting prevalence of 29.1 in 2017. It was reduced to 24.3 in 2020. The majority of those stunted children belonging to 0 to 23 months old and children below 2 years old, while the wasting prevalence among 5 children under 5 children was reduced from 8.6% in 2017 to 2.1% in 2021. When we learned that our municipality was among the top 10 municipalities included in 2017 in the prevalence malnutrition in the whole region, we looked at the accuracy of our data. We found out that some of our barangay nutrition need the pressure training. So we invested in our training in our barangay and nutrition scholars on how accurate to get a measurement over time. Our nutrition indicators improved with other intervention we implemented. Here are some LGU's good practices in governance on nutrition. Strengthening the competence of volunteers workers. The competencies of volunteers workers to implement health, nutrition program, and active community engagement for nutrition development. Ang kagandahan ng sa aming munisipyo, kahit mayroong pandemic, hindi namin hinto ang pagbibigay ng serbisyo. Patuloy pa rin ang ating health and nutrition workers sa pagbibigay sa equitable services sa komunidad. Katulong po namin yung ng LGU, yung Swilig Family Foundation, UNICEF, Kuika, and World Vision. Nagbibigay kami ng trainings, capability building para sa aming mga health and nutrition worker, barangay nutrition committee, di Sangguniang Kabataan, di school nutrition program coordinators at mga nanay, gaya ng family MUEC para matutukoy ang severe acute malnourished o SAM sa household level pa lamang. Sa katunayan, ang aming munisipyo ang pinakauna sa Pilipinas na at sa Southeast Asia sa pagsagawa ng training na ito on nutrition in an emergency, ECCD record 1 and 2 trainings. Frontline health workers are easily mobilized. Their efforts are always being recognized through recognition activities and awarding. The provision of incentives, the barangay health workers are also being coached and mentored by the IMNAW. Next slide, please. And we have the Breast Friends Club, a breastfeeding support group, a community engagement for nutrition development. Ang club na ito ay isang breastfeeding or infant and young child feeding support group o grupo ng mga nanay at buntis at nagpapasuso na naglalayong tumugon sa tamang pag-aalaga at pagpapakain ng mga bata. Lahat ng barangay ay may set of officers na aktibong nagmi-meeting. The organized breastfeeding support group in every barangay became an avenue, not only for lactating postpartum women to receive information on breastfeeding, but also discuss their concern. Also, the husband and male partners were also invited to the Usapang Maginoo. Next slide, please. The Hangkop o Hangyo Kupkup Adapt a Stunting Charity. It means yakap. In Bisaya word siguro Hangkop. We have a memorandum of understanding with the family of malnourished children and barangay on Adapt a Child Monitoring on SAM and MOM Children. Meron kaming proyekto na tinatawag na Hangkop Stunting Rehabilitation Project na kung saan ang membro ng Municipal Nutrition Council ay nagda-adapt ng stunted na bata na kailangan alagaan. Kasabay na rin ito ang sarsaring meeting ng Barangay Nutrition Council, assemblea para magsama ang komunidad, pag-decide sa kanilang nais na solusyon para sa isyong malnourished. Kailangan namin makuha ang 100% commitment ng mga nanay sa paggamot sa mga severe acute malnutrition. Pinapapirma namin ng Memorandum of Agreement, Understanding o kontrata ang the family of malnourished children to adopt a child to some and mom children. Nangako na silang tatapusin paggamot sa mga bata. The leadership trainings of barangay leaders. Next slide, please. The leadership trainings of barangay leaders. Naniwala kami na malaki ang role ng responsibility ng isang authentic leader upang tugunan ang problema ng malnutrition. Kaya sa tulong ng Swilig Family Foundation, nasama kami sa Municipal Nutrition Governance Program para sa Municipal Nutrition Committee at BNGP. Para sa mga membro ng Barangay Nutrition Committee, lang layunin ang programa na palakasin ang Barangay Nutrition Council at Municipal Nutrition Council sa pagpapatupad ng programa pang-nutrisyon. Next slide. The intersectoral collaboration with the different sectors. Una, education. The Department of Education is called Nutrition Program Coordinator and Teachers. Training of Barangay Nutrition Council and mentoring the BINAP formulation designate as IMPO management officer in nutrition. Then the social welfare, the daycare workers, partners of BNS and early childhood care and development. And also the Sangguniang Kabataan for the Youth lead the advocacy and campaign the first 1,000 days. During our MGP training, we discussed about the achieving the quality nutrition data, the information, and the district supervisor proposed the convergence between the DepEd and the local government in the implementation of nutrition programs. Alam naman namin ang mga guro, ang gabay ng unit technology, computer literate, sila ang magaling sa pag-document at pag-facilitate ng training at accomplishment, kaya sila ang tamang tao upang makatulong sa paggawa ng BNEP, documentation report ng barangay sa Nutrition Committee. Sa initiative nito, mayroon draft ng binap na barangay na magamit sa paggawa ng EIP at ang mga guro na rin ang aming tinatalagang Information Management Officer para sa Nutrition in Emergency na programa. At patuloy silang nagbibigay ng coaching and mentoring sa ating mga barangay nutrition scholar at BHW at aktibong umupo sa meeting sa Barangay Nutrition Committee. Ang Sangguniang Kabataan naman ay nakita namin na strength naman sila sa paggamit sa social media at community organizing. Kaya sila ang inatasan naming manguna sa advocacy campaign ng local government para sa first 1,000 days. Isama rin namin sila sa BNGP bilang isang authentic leader na ako sa panagutan para magbigay ng maayos na nutrisyon. At ang mga daycare worker naman ang partner ni BNS para sa ECCD programa ng LGU kung saan sila ay nagsasagawa ng prevention of early identification, referral, and intervention of delays, disorders, and disabilities among 0 to 5 years old. At iba pang sectors sa aming nakatuwang gaya ng Rotary Club of Greater Calbayog na nagsasagawa ng Manapak Feeding Program at I-Mission para sa aming mga drug surrendery and also the senior citizen. Then nagkaroon kami ng establishment of Fish Processing Center and Food Processing o Nutri-Rice under PNAP, Dietary Supplementation Program. Next slide, please. This establishment of Fish Processing Center, isa rin sa natukoy sa sanhi sa malnutrition at kakulangan sa pagkain. Kaya sa pagtulungan ng Department of Trade and Industry at LGU, nagtayo kami ng Fish Processing Center na hindi lamang nagbibigay ng livelihood, pero na-address pa rin namin ang safety and security issue ng local government. At sa aming PNAP o F1 First 1,000 Days, ang pagsang Integrated Nutrition Action Program for First 1,000 Days, the Dietary Supplementation Program o Nutri-Rice, gumawa kami ng pulverized munggo and rice para sa feeding program. Then bumibili kami ng moon rice crunches sa ibang lugar gaya ng Katarma para sa aming dry ration feeding. Sa tulong nito na ibabalik namin sa tamang timbang ang lahat ng 68 na underweight at 13 wasted children noong 2020. Next slide, please. Ang consideration and implementation of the nutrition program, una, the active intersectoral participation of different sector of the community. Then the nutrition program management training for all municipal nutrition council member. The establishment of nutrition office with the staff. The sectoral mapping to identify stakeholder that will address certain health and nutrition issues. Example, the Sangguniang Kabataan for advocacy campaigns, the school teachers as information management officer for nutrition, and consistent monitoring and evaluation of Municipal Nutrition Council and Barangay Nutrition Council functionality and integration of LNEP to Municipal Development Plan, and also for the CLUP, and Community Development Program. That's all. And thank you and good day.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for the presentation. And so, Tony Boy.
Yeah, maraming salamat po, Mayor Tan. I think you very well shared your town's experience, especially in engaging yung ating mga barangays and of course the different stakeholders as they contribute to the overall nutrition program of the municipality of Pagsangan. So now to integrate po all this together, to weave it such that we're able to see really the frame as to how local government units could or should address ito pong ating nutrition issues. We have with us the Zwilig Family Foundation Executive Director to share yung key lessons from the three presenters earlier, as well as other LGUs experience in terms of the nutrition governance program. So we pass the floor to you, Sir Austir.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you very much for this opportunity to participate and join you in this discussion, Doc Marlene and Doc Tony. First of all, let me thank Doc Martin and Doc Cora Barba and for setting the context. And I think we fully understood the main points raised, and let us continue to remember the question of Doc Barba. Anong problema? Nasaan ang solusyon? So I think the presentation of our three local chief executive, one governor, one city mayor, and one municipal mayor, captured the sort of essence of the solution. Yung konteksto na binanggit ni Dr. Martin, ang problema pala sa nutrisyon ay hindi lamang feeding. Kasama ang feeding, ngunit hindi nagtatapos sa feeding. Was clearly shown by the different work that the three LGUs, provincial, municipal, and city level are pursuing. Kita po natin yan. Hindi lang nutrition specific, ngunit ay napakalawak at napakalaki din ng nutrition sensitive. I think the other points that were raised also is yung kalagahan ng mga sumusunod, yung sapat na human resource, community health workers, yung the importance of having a budget, the need to have clear data. They referred to it in several contexts, yung partnership, at higit sa lahat yung sariling LGU team, at yung kapasidad noon sa sa struktura, sa sistema, be it on sa sistema sa pagpaplano, sistema sa pagmomonitor, or sistema sa pagkipag-coordinate among each other to implement the different programs that are on the table. Yung partnership with the external sector is also highlighted. So sa lahat ng ito, I think let me try to capture that role. First slide please. In addition to being the organizer of feeding interventions to address malnutrition, the framework that I'd like to probably propose to you to look at is the one that was shown by Dr. Barba. Na yung intervention from nutrition starts even from pregnancy all the way forward, lactating and feeding and all that. But in all of those, the work that needs to be done is not only about feeding, but let me highlight this role that the LGU has presented today. Yung role nila being that of an integrator of various health and nutrition programs that are essential to providing both nutrition specific and nutrition sensitive services, be it on feeding, to wash, to food production, and etc. Sila po ang naglalagay nito lahat at pinagsama-sama upang makarating doon sa target. So that's the key role, being an integrator. And at times we assume that these roles of governing complex systems towards outcomes and having an evidence-based and decision making are fully known and understood. Local governments are assumed to have skills and a mandate to work with different partners towards these results. Next slide, please. However, as we have listened to them, the complexity of the system also presents a lot of challenges to the LGU. If I may just use this other diagram. Now, when we take a look at the diagram, yung below, showing just a sample of the nutrition and health program, these are governed by different policies and institutional mandates with different programmatic requirements and are generally implemented by silos. Iba si health, iba si social work, iba si DepEd, si education, si agriculture, iba rin siya. And at times, si nutrition office attempts to put them all together. So I think we learned that this is it's easy to to recognize it, but dealing with it is really a major challenge. So I think we would like to note that as integrators, local governments face challenges on how to integrate these services and whether they have the capacity to adequately integrate these programs efficiently and effectively. Next slide. So this is in fact, recognizing these dynamics on the ground. Our work, meaning CFF's work with the local government, is using this or recognizes this, and that's why we are adopting a model which we call the health change model, and we're guided by this. That to achieve better health and nutrition outcomes, our local systems must ensure effective service delivery and community demand for these services. For systems to be responsive, they have to be governed by well-competent leaders. It is developing these leadership competencies that the training, coaching, and mentoring interventions for health and nutrition are centered on. As the different local chief executives have presented, next slide, please. They applied this model in their strategy, and they likewise are cognizant of the roles that various local leaders, from the provinces to the cities and even barangays. So we work with these layers. Napakahalaga po nun that we will have to work with these layers of governance and mandates of governance to look into key nutrition sensitive and nutrition specific interventions, especially for the first 1,000 days outcome. So let me just share with you some of the key lessons. Next slide, please. I think what we would like to highlight here is one is on leadership. Napaka-robust ng kinuwento sa atin ng ating mga resource persons. And it really shows that developing leadership competencies means that our local leaders, through the governors and mayors and their teams, are able to consistently demonstrate evidence-based and informed strategies and to develop their vision for nutrition. Kung napansin po natin, napakahalaga po ng maging maliwanag yung vision for nutrition. At hindi lang nagtapos doon. And ensuring that this is clearly communicated down to the LGU teams and more importantly, to the target families to make sure that these are understood by everyone. Adequate budgets have to be provided on a sustained basis to ensure that nutrition programs and staff can continue and in fact to reach as well as achieve the intended scale and impact. All of them, I think, mentioned that the budgets, they have committed to regularly increase their budgets over time across the life course, as pointed out. Hindi lang sa feeding, we just have to keep repeating this, hindi lang feeding, ngunit pati na rin yung mga nutrition sensitive interventions, because if we don't address the other determinants of malnutrition, we might not be able to really solve the malnutrition problem in the area. So the work on developing leadership competencies using the bridging leadership framework has shown that often it is not the technical challenges that bog down implementation of the programs, but rather these are mostly due to adaptive challenges that affect team dynamics, ability to dialogue and collaborate among LGU teams. Thus, LGU mobilization program should not just focus on equipping LGUs with technical skills, but also soft leadership and management competencies. Yun pong scaling up of LGU mobilization efforts to sustain nutrition systems are critical to ensure continuous service delivery, especially during times of disruptions, be it natural, or disasters, conflicts, pandemics, and even changes in political administrations. Next slide, please. Our health change models states that if leaders are competent, they are able to govern and ensure that their local systems are responsive. Quality in service delivery means that there are enough competent staff, and I would stress enough, no? I think all of them mentioned that they have increased the number of their CHWs, be it the BHW, the BNS, the midwives, or the nurses, who are able to do their work well. Budgeting and planning also requires accurate and up-to-date information. I think all of them also highlighted this, not outdated quarterly data. So I think very powerful yung observation ng ating mga local chief executives diyan. Kasi yung pag-address ng say nutritionally at risk women situation is really a real-time problem. If you miss out, as Doc Barbam pointed out, if you missed out, but to deliver the interventions at a particular point in time, nahuhuli na at medyo mahirap ng habulin yan. But to reach impact, programs should go beyond behavior change communications. It should really move towards positive health behavior adoption, especially towards health and nutrition among parents and caregivers to ensure that increased utilization and demand for quality health and nutrition services. Next slide. There is also a tendency for national and local governments at times to focus on activity-based intervention. So ito yung balik pa rin tayo dun sa mensahe ng feeding program yan. I think what our three resource persons pointed out is that it is essential, in fact necessary, that the outcomes must be really clear from the very beginning. And in fact, planning and I would add budgeting has to be outcome-based. Targeting outcomes has to be the norm in planning and budgeting to ensure impact. Ay madali ho kasi mag-budget kung isang training lang, isang activity lang, pero kailangang makita kung ano ba ang kontribusyon ng training upang mapababa ang incidence ng low birth weight, ng wasting, at magkanong halaga ang kailangan upang ma-achieve natin yung desired outcome ng ating LGU. I think that was a very powerful message that all our resource persons have highlighted. So we have talked in detail about integrated service delivery, but have not really looked at how it is operationalized. Services can be integrated when we look at families and individuals rather than programs and activities. All of our partner LGUs here this morning talk about a target, the nutritionally at-risk pregnant women, especially those who are poor and marginalized. Knowing them, who they are, where they are, how many they are, is a very crucial element to be able to plan and actually budget for the services that is going to reach them. And situating the programs within the life cycle also allows to a more systematic and comprehensive analysis of the various determinants and barriers to care and access to services. So, next slide. While we talk of integration and the role of local governments, let us not forget that major external factors that will influence how local governments will address health and nutrition challenges. External factors such as climate change and natural disasters and pandemics will influence local government actions and their abilities to efficient and effective service delivery, especially among the most vulnerable. As LGUs gear towards full devolution and the implementation of the Mandanas-Garcia ruling, we need to make sure that the decision-making structures at the local governments are fully functional and that adequate resources are deployed to address priorities. So I hope that this discussion today can help everyone to identify what exactly are your nutrition priorities, cost them out, and negotiate with your local sanggunian and your local chief executives that they may be given a bigger share of the incremental increase in the era of the LGUs for next year. Let us keep in mind that the political, economic, institutional, and fiscal changes in the next 3 to 5 years will present disruptions, both positive and negative, and local governments must make sure that their legacies of good nutrition governance are formed by resilient plans and strategies and supported by correct amount of resources to safeguard the future of their constituents. That ends the presentation, Dr. Tony and Dr. Marlene. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Austere, really, for that tight and succinct. And you were able to cover all the key points, including the lessons learned. Much appreciated, Austere. And Tony Boy, I think we should start the Q&A, and we have, I was able to cluster 3 very interesting questions. One question came from Jumel Kuiko. Jumel Kuiko asks, there are several R&Ds, but LCEs rather, hire non-professional nutritionists or non-professionals. And she's asking that, this practice should stop. And a related question asked by Segundina Devota Dilao is, what happens after the LGU scorecards are filled up? What happens then? And the third question, which is really related to all these two, comes from Ces Akuin, who asks, how can we make LGUs accountable?
Yeah.
So, anything more, Tony Boy?
Yeah, thank you for those questions, the Doctora. Yes. Maybe we could ask for our speakers to turn on their cameras so that our participants can see them. I think, Doctora, yan po muna. Baka we could ask una si Mayor Lino to answer maybe 1 or 2 of those questions. Mayor Lino? Mayor Lino, you're on mute po.
Pag-repeat yung first question.
The first question ho ganito, marami daw public health nutritionists ngayon. Kaya lang, yung mga LCEs hire non-professionals as MNAO, CNAO, or PNAO. Na hindi nila consider yung technical responsibilities doon. Yan ang tinatanong ni Jumel mo.
Okay, Doc. It's good na yung Tacorong is nag-hire kami ng nutritionist, licensed nutritionist, which is she comes from the DOH regional office. So wala kaming problema dyan. License yung nutritionist namin.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Maybe if you can hear po kay Governor or kay Mayor Tan.
Kami po sa province sa Zamboanga del Norte ay lahat po mga professional nutritionist po ang na-hire namin. Hindi kami nag-hire ng mga walang experience sa trabaho. Thank you po.
So baka Doktora, we can ask sila Doktora Barba if there's
Yes.
any
Or si
what
and
really
Dr.
legal
Martin
policy
also.
there as to the hiring of
Yes.
these kinds of health human resource,
Yes.
considering that question,
And Dr. Martin also and Dr.
Dr.
Barba.
Martin.
Okay, I think with regards to the action officers, it is possible that they do not really hire nutritionist dietitian because that is not, to my understanding, that is not a plantilla item. And therefore, like when you hire a municipal action officer, the mayor will have to look who among the people yung may trust siya at maki-carry out kung ano yung ini-espouse noong municipality or ng probinsya. So po pwedeng from agriculture and so on. Right now, dapat merong post for a nutritionist, which is a little bit different. So yung post for the nutritionist yung kukunin mo. But it is not necessary na yung action officer ay nutritionist. It will help siguro. Pero siguro ang importante doon, the one who has more access to the mayor or to the governor, the one who knows the whole program. Kasi integrative yung function niya. So yun yung importante. But of course, importante, nasold siya sa nutrition. Kasi ang pag-i-integrate, kung ano yung, we are all humans. Kung ano yung bias mo, mas dumalaki yung puwersa dun sa ini-integrate mo, hindi ba? So siguro kailangan clear yon na hindi necessarily na kailangan nutritionist dietitian dahil hindi plantilla item yung action officer. Although I think some people are saying dapat maging plantilla, pero wala tayong law na ganun. Ang sana lang ang gawin, lahat ng munisipyo mag-hire talaga ng MD. And ako, ang appeal ko sa kapwa ko nutritionist dietitian, pakita natin kung anong magagawa natin. Ano ba talaga ang magiging function natin? I think sa iba malabo. Kasi most of us would say, pakain lang yan paano kung walang pera or so on. Hindi naiintindihan kung ano talaga ang essence ng nutrition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Barba, for clarifying these issues. So, hindi pala nutritionist ang kailangan talaga sa action as action officers. Now, the other question is regarding,
Doc Marilyn.
the scorecard. Yeah.
Doc Marilyn, Martin here. I would like to respond as well, and in addition to what Dr. Barba has mentioned, this is my actual experience because I was previously a doctor to the barrio. I was a municipal health officer and also appointed as the municipal nutrition action officer. It's true na itong position ng MNOW, PNOW, CNOW is not a plantilla position. But what is more important is pag nagtalaga tayo ng MNOW or PNOW, importante na meron siyang coordination skills kahit na ipa-undergo natin siya ng training, but not all of them are born leaders actually. So it's really important that when you look at someone who's going to do the coordination, because it's going to be the local chief executive who will be responsible for the outcome of the program. If you don't have a very good coordinator, definitely it will not become more integrated. So may mga trainings na ginagawa ang National Nutrition Council on how to capacitate the appointed municipal nutrition action officer. But it's also very important that those who will be appointed should not just sit there and then just wait for the information to come in. It is your responsibility to go down the aisle, and very important to really look at the actual situation at the field level rather than just simply waiting for the data of the OPT to be submitted to you and make decision making out from data itself, because sometimes data would not give you the actual scenario in the field. So in my case, when I was appointed as MNOW, wala akong training because I was fresh from medical school. I did it on myself. I did review and then had a constant communication with my regional nutrition coordinator, RNPC, and then do some kind of online trainings as well, no? Kasi yung mga government trainings natin, sometimes we don't know whether the quality of the training is good or not. As mentioned by Dr. Barba a while ago, a training at the national level, which was designed for 2 weeks, becomes 3 days or even 1 day when it goes down to the barangay level. So the quality is really an issue there. So even without the qualification, it's really important that this person should be a born leader with good coordination skills and communication at the same time, and with a sense of good sensitivity towards all of the other actors in the field. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Martin Pareño. I hope that answers your questions, Jumel.
Yeah.
Or
Doktora,
clarify. Yeah.
i-segue natin dun sa binanggit mo kaninang question din. I think yung very important, and I think si Doktora Cesar Queen
Yes,
asked this,
accountability.
how can we make
Right,
LGUs
right.
accountable for nutrition
Right.
outcomes?
Yes,
So,
that's so critical eh.
and related to that, yung question na nga rin that, may mga scorecards tayong nakikita,
Yes.
but what happens then, or what happens next? So, maybe Governor Uy, if we can ask you to go first, yung accountability po of local governments, of all CEs on nutrition outcomes and the scorecards po, anong na ngayon?
Para sa aming side, sa LGU, yung accountability namin po, importante yan eh. Kasi pag meron tayong mga program, importante sa program na you are very honest, full of integrity. At saka anong mga program, pag hindi mo talaga suportahan, is very useless lahat. Kailangan suporta lahat na, pati budget, pati tao, pipiliin mo na mabuti yung mga tao na meron silang output. Kasi kami dito, every week, meron kami, nagre-report po sila ng output sa amin para gusto na makita kung nagtatrabaho ba sila o wala, nag-improve ba o wala. Kaya kami, basta trabaho, wala ka, tinitingnan namin mabuti. Ayaw kami na magtrabaho na basta trabaho na lang, basta tapos na. Hindi, ayaw namin ganyan. Kasi malaki ang problema namin dito. Number one, yung mga lalo na sa nutrition. Ginawa na namin ng paraan lahat. Kung mapasok na kami sa EGBU, kasi alam namin EGBU, pati infrastructure program, yung road opening at saka concreting, ginagawa na namin pati water para lang makunik namin yung mga lugar na talaga maraming malnutrition. Lahat ng gagawin namin hanggang kaya namin.
Thank you, Governor. May we hear po, andito pa po ba si Mayor Tan of Pagsanhan? So yung question po ay, how can we make LGUs accountable for nutrition outcomes? Kung wala na po si Mayor Tan, maybe Mayor Montilla?
Sa Takuro naman, as what my brother is saying, he is putting his position in the line. No? Ganun din ako. I'm putting my position in the line. Kung hindi man namin mapababa o ma-eradicate ang malnutrition dito sa aming lugar, bakit pa kami mauupo na mayor dito? So sa amin, kung hindi namin magawa yung aming trabaho, dapat wala kami dito sa aming posisyon. Yun lang sa amin. We are putting our position in eradicating this malnutrition.
Sige po. Thank you, Mayor Lino. Well, Dr. Marilan, if I can share lang, kasi it just reminded me yung question ni Dr. Ses. It just reminded me yung one of the, I think, modules that we share with our partners as well in the earlier mga training programs namin. There's this what they call the triangle of accountability. Ito yung social contract of the three P's, yung the politician, the provider, and the people. So parang may social contract sila sa isa't isa, yung triangle na yun. And I think if we use that as a frame, we can really somehow it reflects really yung accountability ng bawat isa in terms of certain outcomes.
Right. Saan yung ginagamit yung yung triangle framework na yan?
Well, in some of the training programs of the local chief executive. So really just to show how their accountability to the outcomes natin.
So who actually, so it's the people who will demand accountability from the politicians and the provider.
Correct. Tapos si provider din merong contract with the politician and vice versa.
And so ang premise nito, dapat transparent lahat, nakikita yung decision making process at nagpa-participate ang mga tao dito.
Exactly.
Kahit na wala silang pera masyado, at least may participation. Kasi hindi naman lahat nasasagot ng pera eh. Basta may participation at may political will. Yun. So, but let's ask our panelists how accountability, from the LGU is extracted. for nutrition outcomes. And also from Dr. Barba and Dr. Pareño. I think that's a very critical question. Ultimately kasi yan yung tinitignan ng lahat eh.
Doc Marilyn, if I may start it
Yes,
off.
please, Dr. Martin.
I think the most important there is you have a strong heart actually to face the consequences of the information that you are providing to your local chief executive. As a municipal health officer, it is your responsibility actually to look at data, whether the data is of quality or not, because that is the basis of decision making later on, as mentioned by Dr. Barba in her presentation a while ago. You should not be fearful in saying that the prevalence of malnutrition is degrading. You should present that to your mayor. And if your local chief executive will tell you how come that the malnutrition rate is very high, you should provide with enough evidences and not only data, because sometimes if you're going to look at the local government LGU scorecard, sometimes it becomes actually a hindrance for you to get your next internal revenue allotment, mainly because you're not performing well. It should be evidence-based, but you should also be willing to offer possible solutions to address those issues. And there should be a kind of synergy between your mindset and the mindset of your local chief executive, because it's very important that you as an MNOW should be supporting the captain of the ship. Para hindi kayo magkaroon ng clash na dalawa, dapat align yung inyong strategic thinking. But it's really important also, particularly to be addressed by the Department of Internal Labor, DILG, that those who will be elected should have this kind of framing, looking at food security and nutrition, because that is very important for the development of the human capital. I think that COVID-19 has really provided us a lot of learnings that indeed addressing your own food need in your backyard is very important. It should be sustainable, and you should be dependent only to yourself. Because if you're going to rely so much on the national government and even local government, say for example, this Sept program, it's not sufficient enough to address all of our needs. I think that is one thing that I would like to tell you. But say for example, if you think like there's already a misalignment between your chief executive and you, open a communication. Don't allow that grudges to sleep overnight. It should be talked immediately, because it's very, very serious, because the conflict between the two of you might escalate later on to the detriment of the whole community. Thank you.
Martin, just to ask you, but aren't political realities more complex than that? Could data be really so compelling? What if, the political exigencies, exist, and that the LCEs theoretically could just say, I don't care about this data. I have certain political priorities to take care of.
And that is really
That
a
could
very
happen,
good
right?
example that it's very real, Doc, and
That's
it cannot be
reality.
denied. Yeah, but I think one way is really don't stop yourself from just saying na ayaw niya kasi nito, so I just need to change the data. Kailangan kong pababain ng figure, and that is not very, very good. So look for other networks that could help you more or less if you need to escalate it to the provincial level, but just for the provision of technical support and how to better explain this to a language that can be understood by your local chief executive, please do so. And it's really good also to do some kind of your own data gathering. Check it yourself, challenge them to look at the reality. If they say that the data is not the real data, then do an analysis yourself. Be an operation person. Thank you.
Marlene, if I can add,
Yes.
I agree with Dr. Martin. When we were doing interviews for framing the PPAN 2017-2022, we went to some of the municipalities, and there were some BNSs. When I see that stunting is 2%, which is almost unbelievable, I was asking them, can we weigh some of the children? And some of them would say, Ma'am, hindi ho mataas, pero sinabihan ho kami ng supervisor namin, either the nurse or so on, na magagalit si mayor pag kaya ng ibinigay. Kaya pinaiba ho sa amin yung data. Ang tingin ko, kung yung mga health officer or whoever is the MNOW or whoever is in charge of the BNS, parang they are public servants. They should stand for what they think is correct. I can understand na madaling sabihin yon, given certain circumstances, mahirap siguro na magalit sa iyo si Mayor. Although if you're a civil service person, for as long as you do your work, you should be okay. Pero having said that, then on record, we will have to say na yung Mayor na yon, hindi na priority ang nutrition, di ba? Kasi iba-iba yung may priority, iba-iba yung may ganun. Pero ang tingin ko, what she can do is also ask help from the private sector. And there are many NGOs, I think, that goes around the different municipalities. In fact, ang feeling ko, ang isang problema din, ang dami-dami minsan. Like pupuntahan ka ng NGO, A, B, C, D, E. Mabuti kung pare-pareho. Dapat kasi yun, meron ding integration eh. May iisa yung framework na pinagtatrabahuhan nyo. Eh minsan, dala yun nung kung ano yung vision ng mismong NGO. Diba? But so I think talagang madaming kailangang ayusin. Thank you.
Pero at least may social media ngayon. Pwedeng ilabas nila sa social media.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony Boy?
Yeah, Dr. Marilan, I think just a reminder to those raising their hand. Unfortunately, we cannot call you po, so please just type in your questions or your reactions. Doctora, siguro we have 5 minutes left, 5 to 10 minutes, so we're good for maybe a question or two. Read through lang yung isang reaction. I think this is from Prof. Ernie Garilao. So we're asking the accountability from LGU. Why not ask accountability from our national leaders?
Correct. This is from Prof. Garilao. Very good.
What else? Yeah, I think yung iba, Doctora, are really mostly appreciation to the presentations.
Yes.
What else?
Pero balikan natin yung accountability from the national leaders. Kasi importante yun eh. They set the tone eh. And not only the tone, they provide a technical assistance. They are also the source of the funds. So how do we seek accountability from national leaders?
So, makaunahin ko, Dr. Marilyn, asking that from our LCEs.
Yes,
are they
right.
guided? Are they
Go
being
ahead.
asked by the national, etc.?
How are their relationships?
Correct. Kamusta po ang
It will take so
Tugon?
longer maybe than 5 minutes.
Mayor Montilla or Governor Uy, how's your relationship with national agencies like NNC, DOH on nutrition programs and interventions?
Salamat po. Yung national relationship namin puro karamihan puro na lang communication. Lalo na sa yung nangyari na ngayon sa COVID-19, they are concentrated on that pandemic. Kami naman sa aming side, kung kaya namin gagawin na lang namin. Kasi importante kasi malaki po ang namin trabaho. As a Christian, siyempre sabihin ni Lord, mahalin mo siya. Number 2, mahalin mo yung pobre. Yung pobre, yun ang gagawin namin. Kung anong utos ng Panginoon, we are striving very hard to do our best na matulungan namin sila. Hindi lang sa salita, kundi in action. Yan lang ang gusto namin. Ayaw namin na maraming salita, maraming theory, maraming program, pagkatapos failure pa rin yung resulta. Gusto namin, basta may improvement lang kami, improvement every quarters may improvement. Yan, masaya na po kami. We are doing really our effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Mute ka pa rin, Tony Boy. Okay.
Ay, go ahead po, Mayor.
Okay. Sa Tacurong City naman po, okay naman po ang relation namin sa national agencies. No? Sa DOH, very supportive naman yung regional office sa aming ginagawa dito sa city ng Tacurong. and also yung sa Popcom, no? Actually, bago naman kami na-recruit, no? Na para tulong na naman sa mga teenage pregnancy, no? Isa naman kami na LGU na tinutulungan ng Popcom 12, no? Para ma-address namin yung problema namin dito sa Tacurong with regards to the teenage pregnancy. And bago lang kanina, while ongoing yung webinar natin, dumating dito yung taga World Health Organization, no? Chine-check nila yung vaccination process namin dito sa Tacurong, and it's good na sabi niya okay daw yung process ng pag-vaccinate namin dito sa syudad ng Tacurong. Overall, good relationship ang national government, national agencies natin and ang Tacurong City. Yun lang po. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Siguro, Doc Marilen, andito na rin si Sir Rostire. Maybe we can hear from him,
let's ask from him
as to
after his
really how to
experience.
make the national government accountable based on his experience sa DILG.
No. Well, mas maganda yung local question. I think I'll just draw from the sharing of our mayors. First is yung accountability starts with helping everyone own the problem. Kung, as you pointed out, Dr. Tony, yung triangle na sinabi mo nga, yung local chief executive, the program holders, and the people, may contract sa bawat isa, but it's really triggered by the chief executives. And I think our 3 resource persons clearly showed this. No, you don't have to run after somebody who is really owning the problem because he has a contract with his people. So baka doon muna ang effort eh. The rest are systemic, no? So how would you know if they're delivering? I think they all mention it also. May team ako. May activated yung aking now. Yung council ko expanded. Higit sa lahat, dinamihan ko si BNS at si BHW. Because at the end of the day, you have to reach the household. And you cannot have that with having 10% only of what is necessary. Clear yun sa lahat ng lumalabas. At higit sa lahat yung datos. Hindi ako natatakot na masama ang datos na lumalabas. Maganda yung, tama si Doc, I encountered somebody also who has something like that na parang, ba't naman, kasi nagagalit, ibigay yung gustong data na makita. So doon ang problema. So we don't get into that if the mayor is in the first place committed. I think the investment is really to get the mayor and the chief executives committed. Number 2 lang is yung paglaan ng resources. I think that's one leadership act that needs to be really siguro critical sa lahat. And to me, I would bring that to the, at the moment, lahat ng LGU gumagawa ng devolution transition plan for 2022. I think the ideas here, plus the suggestions of the participants, gets translated into a program and a budget that can really be deliberated by the LGU between now and December 12. I'm just trying to flag that because if we miss out on that and we continue talking lang about it, wala ring mangyari. At third is statistics, as pointed out by Dr. Parino, is helpful, but at times mas powerful kung nakikita ng ating chief executive ang kalagayan sa baba.
Right.
I think in the process that we do, yung tinatawag nating deep dive. Hindi lahat ng numero ay nakakagawa ng bugso. Ika nga can trigger a bugso ng damdamin to address a problem, but talking to, seeing the real situation, as well as appreciating what is really the condition on the ground, at times or in most cases, in fact, can lead to a quick action. So those are, well, of course, the other part to this is really, ang bottom line, sagot sa mga national agencies kasi sa accountability, they put in place an oversight system. So I think that's something that NNC and the other agencies can really think about. Maraming ng paraan yan.
Okay, thank you, Austin.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Marin, Dr. Steer, Dr. Marilen. I think it's time po kasi we're over time na rin po. Ano? But Dr. Marin, I'd like to thank po siguro muna our speakers na LCS. Last hour, I think almost more than 300 participants for today.
We haven't counted the Facebook participants, I mean Facebook viewers pa. Yeah. To all our participants, thank you very much. Talagang thank you very much for this very enriching discussion, especially with the LCEs here, with Dr. Barba and Dr. Martin Pareño also. What for me is so important is that nothing really will happen kung walang LCEs. Nothing will really happen kung mga LGUs hindi talaga mag-work. It's really in the the key is with the LGUs. It's so critical. That's why we should really be able to support them in whatever way we can, so that they will be able to implement the programs that they really so prioritize. So thank you very much to our panel of speakers. Thank you very much, Governor and Mayor Tan and Mayor from Tacurong.
Montilla.
Yes, Mayor Montilla from Tacurong. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, and thank you so much for making the time, to be with us today. And for Dr. Barba and Dr. Martin Pareño, thank you so much. Really, thank you.
Okay, so that ends po our webinar today on behalf of the World Food Program, PCPD, and the Zurich Family Foundation. Maraming salamat po ulit sa pagsama niyo sa amin ngayong umaga. Thank you, everyone.
Initially known as the Population Center Foundation, the Philippine Center for Population and Development was created in 1973 to complement the government's National Population Program. In its first 26 years, PCF implemented projects that delivered information, training, and family planning services. In 1992, the foundation broadened its mandate from population to Population and Development, or PopDev, and it changed its name to the Philippine Center for Population and Development. As a PopDev organization, PCPD implemented projects on community-based health education and services, responsible parenthood, and adolescent development. In 2000, PCPD was reorganized as a grant-giving foundation. It supported the efforts of partners that responded to various concerns, such as housing, waste management, food security, climate change, and reproductive health. In 2020, PCPD decided to shift from giving grants to becoming a social enterprise. It is studying the feasibility of setting up a hospital that would specialize on women's and children's health care, while at the same time provide a broad range of health services to the general public. As it continues to evolve, one thing has remained constant for PCPD. Through its various transformations, PCPD's commitment is to contribute to improve the quality of life of Filipinos.